I wanted to talk about some difficulties with tacit collusion. Tacit collusion, truly with no communication, can be hard. Tacit collusion requires an initiation phase in which the firms must come to be coordinated on some equilibrium without communication, and then an implementation phase where they have to follow through again on this agreement without communication. So I have a quote here from that involves a number of our presenters. So this is Ivaldi, Julian, Ray, Seabright, and Tirole saying that while economic theory provides many insights on the nature of tacitly collusive conducts, it says little on how a particular industry will or will not coordinate on a collusive equilibrium and on which one. And I agree. So I think there are, it can be difficult to have an initiation phase for tacit collusion without communication. And on the implementation phase, things can be difficult if firms face strategic buyers. If buyers can play the firms off one another and create uncertainty in the minds of the firms as to whether the other cheated, that can cause coordination to fail if the firms can't communicate with one another to resolve this uncertainty. So in theory, there are some potential difficulties with organizing tacit collusion. Okay, so when you look at the graph, you see a large jump up from prices before the conspiracy to the prices that they achieved during the plea period, during the conspiracy. Prices before the conspiracy were 30, 40, 45% lower than the prices at their maximum during the conspiracy. And then you see after the end of the conspiracy, there was an investigation in Europe and in the United States, and there was an amnesty applicant. And so you see the prices drop off after the end of the conspiracy. There are 3 lines on the graph. The blue corresponds to products where there were only 2 manufacturers, 2 cartel members manufacturing the product. And the other 2 lines correspond to products where there are 3 or 4 manufacturers of the product. Now, I take away a couple different things from this graph. One is that if you have only 2 manufacturers, having spent 10 years working together in an explicit price-fixing conspiracy makes it fairly easy for you to then continue tacit collusion in the period after the conspiracy. But I think it's interesting, even though many of the firms that are in these two-firm conspiracies, the firms behind the blue line are also in the other 2 lines, even though they had just spent 10 years engaged in a very well-organized price-fixing conspiracy and had recognized enormous profits as a result, they were unable to sustain tacit collusion after the end of explicit communication, after the end of the explicit conspiracy. After about a year, prices are back to their pre-conspiracy levels. So one of the things I take away from this is that even with lots of education on the profitability of collusion and how one might organize it, it can be difficult to sustain tacit collusion when you have enough firms in the industry.